All right, thank you everyone. Just want to give people time to get logged in. My name is Andy Harleman here at JMT Consulting, and we really appreciate your time today. As I was mentioning before, I know much of the country is being terribly impacted by power outages and just brutally cold winter weather. JMT has 3 physical offices in the United States. We have one in Nashville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, and New York. Our New York office yesterday was the warmest of the 3. So it's been a crazy couple of days here, and I know many of my colleagues here. In fact, the person who was scheduled to be the MC of our meeting today actually can't do it because she's at home in Texas with no power. So I will be both the MC and the presenter, if that makes sense. So let me introduce myself. Andy Harleman here from, let me just make sure that I am moving my slide. There we go. That's me before the COVID beard, but I worked in nonprofit when I started my career. I got out of college and helped found a social service agency way back then. And I've been on a nonprofit board, and I've been working in this industry consulting with nonprofits now since 2016, hard to believe. And, you know, that's my background, but really I want to tell you about JMT. JMT is a firm who works only with nonprofit organizations. And so your mission and your nonprofit is our business. We literally have thousands of happy nonprofit clients, and we're known for helping our clients get, you know, rapid and affordable implementations of world-class software that helps nonprofits better able to work towards their mission. We are, the hallmark of JMT is, but we're a small independent business with 50 or 60 employees. And so we're small enough to provide exceptional and personalized service, but we partner with world-class billion-dollar software companies. So you get the best of both worlds with JMT. You have a firm that's large enough to handle complex implementations, small enough that you get to know us by name, but also partnering with the giant software companies that make the good software. So we were built by a team of people who are dedicated to working with nonprofits like myself. And our founder and namesake, JMT herself, Jacqueline M. Tiso, was a finance person at multiple New York area nonprofits when she founded JMT 30 years ago last month. And so she had been a buyer sitting in the finance office of a couple of different accounting software solutions in those days. She talks about the days of the big floppy disks and other things that went on back then and DOS operating systems, but she was less than impressed with some of the service she got as a buyer for nonprofits. And she was very passionate about the fact that nonprofits deserved better than what she got. And so she formed JMT in part with the idea that she could do better than that, and that she would have a company that focused exclusively on helping nonprofits in the way that she didn't feel like she got help. So as I mentioned, we have 3 physical offices, but the green dots are where we have clients all over the country. And I wish I could show you the whole world map here, because we now have an office in Melbourne, Australia as well. But this is our mission, to work with nonprofits. And, you know, in this day and age, it really doesn't matter where you are, we can help you. And we've been doing everything on Zoom like the whole world has been for the last year now. But before that, we would come to you and come to your office, wherever you might be, to help you implement your systems. So these are some of the many nonprofits that work with us and have worked with us over the years. As you can see, there's a wide variety of different organizations. And I always like to say, look, I can tell you how great JMT is all day long, but this is what one of our great clients, Anthony, has to say about us. And, you know, that really ties into what I was just saying. We understand nonprofits, and that's what made him feel comfortable working with us. So I want to emphasize that we are an independent consulting firm. And that should be very important to you, because what it means is we're not tied to any publisher. We are not a software publisher. In fact, our commitment is to you, the client. And we go out there and monitor the marketplace. We know what software products are out there, and we choose to partner with or not partner with all the software publishers out there. And so we make very careful considerations and decisions about what software products we're going to work with. So you can rest assured that if JMT is a partner with a software solution, that we have put it through its paces and that it has met our very rigid standards for helping nonprofits. And so what we do is we partner with the best products we can find in the marketplace, and then we help you assemble a perfect for you solution from our entire ecosystem. So JMT works across the spectrum of all these different areas of your organization where we might be able to help you. And so today, we're going to focus on the budget management part of it with Vena. But as you can see, we have many other partners out there that we work with across the spectrum in different areas to help nonprofits. So as I said, we're going to work with Vena just today. That's how we're, but I also wanted to leave you with this great quote. I like this. This is an organization that helps people who are enduring cancer treatment. And last year when COVID hit, they had a very moving emotional story about how they were able to just quickly adapt to the new remote workforce environment and still not mess up their services at all to any of their clients. And John there says nice things about us and our onboarding process and how we got them there. But because they went through that process, they were able to pivot when COVID hit. And that means a lot. That's why we do what we do here at JMT. There are literally sick people who are able to not have their treatment interrupted because we've been able to help in some small way that organization. So we talked about last year, we learned in 2020, there's no excuse for working with outdated technology. I think we've all learned that the hard way. And so I want to talk about where that comes in when it comes to the process of budgeting. We've been doing this for a long time. And I can tell you that every single time I talk to an organization about their budget process, it's usually accompanied by moans and groans about what an arduous process that is. We have found over time that the average time frame just to build the annual budget for a nonprofit is 4 to 6 months, though I've seen longer. I will never forget one particular nonprofit who told me that their budget cycle was 10 months. There were only 2 months of the year when they weren't working on building out their budget. And as soon as they finished, you would think they would feel very great relief from that. But then the dread of starting the new process in a very short period of time was always in their minds. So that was the worst I've seen, but the average we see is about 4 to 6 months. And most organizations, when we talk to them about the concept of collaboration, what it really means is emailing spreadsheets around. And so that's pretty much the gist of most nonprofit budget cycles that we've seen over the last 30 years that we've been in business. Everybody gets a spreadsheet. And we all know what can happen when you have too many spreadsheets floating around. So what I think is kind of interesting is the idea that it's one thing if you're a budget manager, a program manager, and someone emails you a spreadsheet and you have to fill it out. Sure, there's lots of trouble for you, but how about the poor person back in the finance office whose job it is to assemble all of those spreadsheets? And really this cartoon makes light of it, but the idea of budgeting, instead of budgeting to your strategy, spending your time trying to find what cell is broken. I think that I probably could have just had this one slide really, because that is the gist of the problems that we see with our nonprofit clients is that, it's just too much time being spent on low value tasks, like trying to find errors in spreadsheets and formulas. So then you get to the idea of how do I recast my budget? I've had so many conversations in this last year with organizations who have had to make pivots and changes because of COVID, getting a new stream of funding coming through. For example, I spoke to someone in Indiana today who got a bunch of state funds, which is great, but that meant they had to completely redo their budget. And redoing their budget was an arduous process. So sometimes it's great to get a new pot of money or to have something come in to provide great relief for you. But at the same time, the process of recasting that budget can become a nightmare when you're talking about all those spreadsheets floating around. And then you've got a situation like this where you might have your board needs a new plan ASAP as you pivot and change through all of these different things that are going on in the world around you. You have to sit there and quickly change your previous assumptions that were in your budget or collaborate with your workforce who is now remote after all the years of being in the office with you. You don't have time to waste on data collection or data entry, yet you have to make strategic decisions on that data. And then sometimes assumptions change and they change quickly. In some cases, we saw during the height of COVID, it was changing as quickly as hourly for some organizations. And then so you have to do that process all over again. So I don't want to hit it over the head too hard, but I think I hope I paint a picture for you here on what we've seen with a lot of our clients in terms of the process that they've had to go through with their budgeting. So for you to hit all those things, it's really no problem when you have a tool like Vena. I mentioned before, JMT chooses what product we can work with. We have chosen to partner with Vena. We're very excited about Vena because what it does is it says, hey, wait a minute. Excel isn't all bad. In fact, there are many things about Excel that all of us know. We know how to use it. Every single person in a finance department already knows how to use Excel. Our theory at JMT is if you know how to use Excel, you're probably 50 to 60% of the way there on understanding how to use Vena. So what Excel does, or what Vena does, excuse me, with Excel, is they lock out all the bad stuff about Excel and they keep all the good stuff. And then they add and enhance to it. So you still get workflow automation. You can actually collaborate across departments. You actually have version control and audit trails. You have security, you have integration with other tools, and you can do complex financial modeling. All of these things are possible within Excel, but no formula errors, no versions floating around that aren't correct. None of that, the regular hassles of Excel. So it's the best of both worlds for sure. It is a cloud tool. And so you're able to make this whole process very easy for your staff by mapping out your own workflow for your budget process, which is a nice thing. And on top of everything else, you're able to not just build a budget, but you're actually able to do board-ready reports right out of the system. We have a lot of clients that are using Vena for their management reporting exclusively. And others have a really great ERP, like something like Intact, where they're able to do their financial statements out of Intact, but they may use Vena for some to enhance that with their management reporting. So it gives you a lot of great options. Ultimately, what it does, this is our goal for you. We want to help you spend 80% of your time being strategic rather than the other way around, that whole Pareto principle. Unfortunately, far too many of our clients over the years we've seen spending only about 20% of their time being strategic. And so with Vena, you're able to make it 80. So these are some of the things you don't have to worry about when you're using something like that. I have one question, which I'm going to save for the end. I forgot to mention that, I'm sorry to say. I have a hard time multitasking and seeing the little, I just see that I have a question. But we have Kathleen monitoring if it's any kind of question about technical, or if my volume is wrong, or if I'm cutting out or something, please do let me know. But otherwise, we'll save room at the end for all questions, and appreciate your patience with that. Sorry, I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So what I want to do next is I do want to open up my, my actual Vena system. So let me do that. Vena is a cloud-based tool, and I simply went to a tab on my browser and logged in. As you can see, I'm logged in to a sample database with my name. Now, I've logged in. I can either be a manager over here or a contributor. So let's start. I'll start with a manager. As a manager, there are many things that processes that I can create and control. I have my nonprofit budget creation. This is just a sample database, of course. But if I open this, this is what I showed you on that screenshot before. This is where you can actually build out that process. This isn't just a visual aid here. These things actually come within them. You create the processes that roll up into these, and then you can use this flow chart to create, who gives what to when and where and how the approvals flow. This is where it's all set up. So this is just an example of one that we have set up in this sample database. But there are other things the manager has as well, including, I love this status tracker. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a sample database, so our data isn't updated and things like that. But you're able to actually track the process of the contributors on your team and see where they are. Maybe keep up with those who need a little keeping up with because perhaps they haven't done what they were supposed to do for their budget entries. And you can really see and calendarize the whole thing. So this really gives you a great view and the ability to manage that process more easily internally. And what's interesting about Vena, and we're not going to get into this here today too much, but Vena is able to do more than just budgeting. We're focused on that because that's really what its biggest strength is, and certainly why we're most excited about it. But any process that you do in your organization can be tracked here through Vena, including such things as the monthly close process. So we have some clients that are using it for that sort of thing. Again, we're going to focus today on the budgeting process, but just keep in mind, this is a true platform and a tool that you can use for many other things. So I'm logged in. You can see this is some of the stuff I see as a manager or a manager, and then I'm going to go over here to be the contributor next. So imagine a scenario where, like what I talked about before, in finance, you need to send spreadsheets around to all these different program managers who run the different areas, and they have budgetary responsibility, and you need them to give their input and have it roll up into one master organization budget. So what I want to show you here today is just a very small hypothetical glimpse at what that might look like when you have a tool like Vena. So I'm going to go over here. I want to go to this detailed OPEX input report. This is where I would be able to enter my data. Now, you notice here it says check out. What that means is I'm going to actually check this Excel spreadsheet out. What it's doing is it's populating this Excel spreadsheet with data from the secure Vena cloud, and it's checking it out. So think of it like a library book. If you check out a library book, you have it. Nobody else can get to it. And that's the way this works. Once a budget manager checks out their little sliver of the organization, no one else can be messing with it. Therefore, it controls for the problem of, too many cooks in the kitchen and too many people messing up or changing data at once, because only one person can change it. And obviously you have security to control who even has access to all parts of the data. But what I did was I hit checkout, and if you were looking quickly, you might have seen it just downloaded here on the bottom left of my screen. So I'm going to open that now. I think it threw it over on the other monitor, so I'll drag it back over. Let me do that first. I think I have to first answer the prompts that it's giving me to make that happen. But what it's doing is it's loaded on my other monitor here the spreadsheet, and now I'm going to I have to choose my parameters first before I can drag it over to that other screen. Sorry about that. So what it's asking me to do is simply say, what department are you looking at? And I'm choosing one called San Francisco. And I'm going to choose my forecast as my version. So once I do that, it'll load the data, and then I'll drag it over to the other monitor. And if I was more proficient at Zoom, I'm sure I could have figured out a way to show you that monitor, but I will just admit right here and now, I'm not that guy who's proficient at Zoom like that. So here instead is my sheet that I was just talking about. Kathleen, can you please verify that that is visible to you?
It is, thank you.
Thank you. So this is the OPEX entry template that I was talking about. Now, again, I've simplified this down here for the purposes of a webcast, but I want you to get the sense for what I'm talking about. This looks and feels like a spreadsheet. In fact, it is actually a spreadsheet, but what you might notice up here is there's this special ribbon that appears. This is all the Vena stuff. So they've basically installed a macro onto your spreadsheet, and it is allowing you to have actually control all those other things I was talking about. So let's say I'm a budget manager and I need to enter my expenses. I'm going to do something simple and come down here. I'm going to say, let's go to my forecast here, number for June of 21, and just enter a number of, I'm just going to say 444, and then enter it. Now, when I do that, there's a couple things. It hasn't done anything yet because I haven't saved, but I want to scroll over and show you a couple other things. So let's look at some of these others that I've done. Let's just highlight this cell, and let's look at the audit trail in this cell. You can see it gives a full audit trail and shows who did what when to that cell. So this is very powerful. As we mentioned before, there's a full audit trail, and you can see that perhaps I may have used the same cell in multiple webcasts because I've gone in there and done that. But you get the idea. This is very powerful. You can also do things like look down and see what are the actual saves to this cell that have happened in the past. So when I do that, what it did was it's just showing the one other time that I've done that. And I can even see line item history if that were enabled. I believe on this one it's not. I don't have it enabled. But you get the idea. It is a very powerful tool that allows you to get a lot of, there is no data actually showing on that. But this is where I, again, back to where I was, the budget manager, I'm entering data. I entered that 44,444. Now, obviously, I would normally be doing a lot more than just that one recruitment line item here, but I'm going to go ahead and just save it now for the purposes of this webcast. So when I do that, a couple of things are going to happen. I'm just going to try it this way by closing the Excel sheet. We'll say, wait a minute, it's controlled by Vena. Do you want to save this? Of course I do. I want to save this to the Vena database. So I'm going to do that. And now it's going to warn me about a budget threshold problem that I have, and that is that that I have a something where I'm not allowed to go 20% higher. Now this is a soft control. This is just warning me. It's not prohibiting, but obviously you could set it to be more stringent and not let anybody do things like that. And I could make a comment if I wanted to, or I could just overrun in this case because it's a sample database for a webcast. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, yes, I want to do that. So now it actually had on my other monitor a little window that pops up that says data saved successfully. Do I want to check this filing? Why, yes, I do. So now, as you can see, it went back to check out and this file is in there. So it would be that simple for anyone in your program to do that. Now, multiply how many different people you have in your organization who might need to enter data like that. It's saved securely to the database, and now anybody can go in, the administrator can go in, I should say, and see the work of all the other program managers who might have done something similar for their little cut, their little piece of the organization at the same time. So it's very exciting to think about how that might make a difference in your nonprofit, especially when you think about the emailing around of spreadsheets that have happened before. Now, I've been focused a lot here on that process, and I've given you a small glimpse into what Vena could do for you in terms of making the process more streamlined. However, let's also look at some of the other things. This has probably caught your eye that there's some other things on here, like, for example, these financial reports. So if I come down, let's say I want to look at some of these reports. I want to look at my expense variance report as an example. So if I hit that, again, same thing. It's just simply downloading that data from the secure Vena database to the spreadsheet. Now it's going to open here on my other screen. And again, I have to choose my fields first. It's asking me, what department and things that I want to look at on it. I'm just going to say, okay. Once it loads, I'll move it back over. Sorry about that. If it makes anyone feel better, you'll know that I'm sure my coworkers will be making fun of me for my inability to put that spreadsheet onto the right monitor during a webcast. But anyway, here is the report I was referring to. So I could scroll down here and I can see all kinds of things, and I can expand out and see the actual dates and look at all the different information that I might have. Now, I actually did have a chance to see a chat question that had something about, what's that question? Can you drill back to the source system? Yes, and that's what's beautiful about this. And I also saw another question I had a chance to look. Does it work with MIP? The answer is yes. Vena can work with any ERP. They have pre-built integrations with multiple, like Intact is one. But any ERP, what's beautiful about it is there's a way that they can do an import of data from any system. So essentially, even if you have a really old on-premise tool, we can get data into Vena with it. So what I want to do, just to demonstrate some of the stuff that you can do here, this is, as you can see, you're in Excel, but you're using the Vena ribbon, so you can scroll down and you can see different information. So let me just highlight this cell here as an example. So when I look at this cell, I can do a couple things. Let's look at drill transactions. This is actually transactions that made up that number that would theoretically, and again, this is a sample database, have come from your ERP system. So it actually shows the transactions, and it simply opens a new tab down here below on this spreadsheet, and it actually shows where that data came from. Again, I clicked on that right from the Vena sheet. I can also do back down to, I can drill down into that if it's got anything open, and you can see that you're able to do further look. I can also check audit trail. I can see comments, many other things that you can do right here on these reports. So it is a lot more than what you would get in a regular Excel, as you can see, and you can connect it to multiple sources. I mentioned connecting to MIP or any ERP, but the fact is that most organizations we work with have many other tools out there. You may have a HR payroll system that you pull data from. You may have some sort of CRM if you're doing revenue fundraising through some other way. And all of that can be set up to go into Vena and feed these files, feed these actuals, and then allow you to do your budget process and your management reporting as well. And I have another question from my friend Lawson, who I happen to know. Hi, Lawson. How did the spreadsheets that I checked out or viewed in Vena get formatted in the first place, and who created them and how? So the answer is well, this is obviously a sample database, but what we do, certain ones come with the system when you have a subscription. But what we do is, that's part of JMT services, is help you create the exact ones that you need for your organization. But what's nice about that is many of the spreadsheets that you already have in use can actually just be pivoted to being Vena spreadsheets with very little work. I don't want to guarantee that that's always the case, but in a high percentage of the cases, we can work with existing Excel spreadsheets that you may have in play. So it's pretty exciting. That's why we really like this tool, because it really saves some of the good things about Excel. So another thing I want to show you here, I'm going to close out of this report. I'm not going to bother saving it, but you might have caught that it does many other things too, other types of reports. You can actually set up an executive report pack. And once you have it set up, then what it does is it will actually update any of the tables within there that need to pull from the actual secure Vena database. So this would just be a very simplistic board pack that we've made up in here. But you can see, and again, I'm pulling from a sample database and I haven't pointed to the right dimensions to pull, but you get the idea. Any of these numbers that are actually, they would be pulling straight from the Vena database and updating, so that you don't have to recreate this packet every month. It just does it for you when you simply hit refresh. The same is true, if you noticed, a lot of organizations do that very same thing via PowerPoint. And the same thing, the tables that are within that PowerPoint that actually contain data that comes from Vena just would get updated when you refreshed it. So you don't have to rebuild your PowerPoint every month or anything like that. You simply can refresh with the Vena data. And you can even, like, let's say you're looking at this right now and you realized, oh my gosh, I forgot to enter something. And you can either literally go back to the entry sheet, update that, save it, check it back in, and then come here, refresh, and it will instantaneously update the numbers on this PowerPoint as well. So this is a really big time saver when it comes to things like board packets in addition. So I hope you're seeing here today that Vena can do a lot for you. We don't expect you to possibly, after a brief webcast with us, know everything there is to know about it, of course. We hope that you've seen enough that you're interested in having a further conversation with us. We're very big at JMT. We really believe strongly in being upfront and honest about all the capabilities and lack thereof of any tool we work with. So we'd love to talk to any of you about how this might be able to help you. And if there are things you need to do that it won't do for you, we'll tell you. But I suspect, in most cases, we've really seen a lot of organizations using this and more inquiries into it. We've been in this business for a long time, and it's only been the last few years that FP&A tools like this have even been affordable for your average nonprofit in the marketplace. And it's really exciting for us to think, because as we all know, when a new technology emerges, at first it comes out and it's really expensive, but then the price comes down. And so, FP&A tools used to only be things that organizations who wanted to spend $1 million could afford, but that's no longer the case. And we're really excited about how a lot of our smaller nonprofit clients are going to be able to use a tool like Vena as they move forward. So to the point I was making about earlier about what to do next, we want to help everyone get going on this as soon as they possibly can. So we've come up with at JMT a way that we can actually implement this and get you up and running in a very short period of time through outsourcing the administration of the model essentially to us. We can do all of this for an affordable monthly fee, and we can get you up and running very quickly. So the hardest part about deploying new software isn't really the end user training. Everybody can learn how to enter data and save stuff, and with a little bit of training. It's the people in the organization who have to really master it and understand it to the point of always being able to build out their own model sheets themselves, or knowing how to change around some of the rules and formulas. And so what we're saying at JMT is there's an option for you, if you don't want to take all of that on, but you still want to get the benefits of this tool, to outsource the administration of your model to us. And all of that can be rolled into a very affordable monthly fee, including the software subscription, so that we can actually get people up and running really quickly. We know that June 30th is coming quickly, and that is the year end for a huge chunk of our clients. And many of you may be already starting to think about whatever new budget process you have to start after June 30th. And hard as it is to believe on a day like today, where I sit, it's 10 degrees. that will be in July before we know it, but that is the case. So if any of your organizations want to have a further conversation with us about how you can deploy this rapidly, we can do that. We can also do a much more traditional implementation of it without that outsourcing of the administration to us, where we really give you that end user administrative training, and just takes a little bit longer, but if you want to go into that, you can do that as well. So I want to double check, see if there are any other questions I don't see. And then the next step is we want to schedule a quick 15-minute consultation with anyone who's interested in talking further about it. And we're offering a $10 Starbucks card to anybody who books one of these by Friday the 19th. So you can reach us at jmtconsulting.com/meet, as you see there on the bottom of this slide. And that will allow you to have that consultation with us. I see one question I did get is curious about pricing. Yes, absolutely. The pricing on this tool is really contingent upon a few factors. Most importantly, the number of users and types of users that you would need. So for every organization, we're happy to give you a quick pricing estimate as soon as we can understand a couple of details about your organization. We very much believe in getting that pricing conversation out front, because if it's something that simply is not within the ballpark of a budget that you can afford, I'd rather you find out really early so that you don't get excited and spend a bunch of time looking at demos if it's not something you can afford. So we'll make sure we're very quick about getting you that pricing information when the time comes. So with that, I'm going to look and see if anyone else has any other questions, but I'll leave you with this thought. No fooling, by April Fool's Day, this could be you. You could be relaxing about your budget process. So I once learned that when in doubt, put a funny animal picture in a PowerPoint and it will make for much higher ratings on your webcast. So I hope that has raised your opinion of me just by putting that picture in there for you. I say in jest with a smile on my face, but thank you everyone. Really appreciate your time today. I can be reached at JMT Consulting's website, or my email is my first initial and last name at jmtconsulting.com if anyone wants to reach out to me directly. But let us know if you would like to book that consultation by Friday. And even if it's just to have a pricing conversation, we can do that with you and let you know what you think, or you can let us know what you think once we've been able to give that to you. So again, thank you everyone. I leave you with one final quote from one of our clients who, I wish I had another one of her quotes up where she said, Vena changed her life. Those were her exact words. But Sarah, one of our happy JMT clients, talks about how JMT really became a part of the family at the Children's Tumor Foundation. And absolutely, we want to be part of the family of every nonprofit. So thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And for those of you in the frigid Midwest or South, or I guess whatever part of the country where all the cold is, which is, I guess, everywhere but Miami, stay warm and stay safe. Thanks, everyone.